Okay, so in the entire BCS and college football playoff era, the champion has been incredibly identifiable and one of a very small number of teams. People will be like, "Oh man, like Michigan, like you nailed it from the beginning." It's like it does not. I have a lot of criteria for a lot of sports. College football did not require very much to come up with that list. I'm just going to be honest. Like that was one of the first breakthroughs. It was like, oh, this is really easy. It's like always the best team or one of the best teams, and there are very few that meet the criteria of best team. So like this year, it seems like everyone thinks Georgia is the best team. I had somebody message me and be like, you should just start parlaying everything you like with Georgia to win the championship. And my response is, there is no way I'm going to do that when we are introducing a 12-team playoff for the first time. And yeah, that means people are like, well, what do you mean? Why is it going to be crazier? It's like, well, you have, first of all, you have more teams in the tournament. The champion has to win more games to win the title. More chance of an upset happening. More chance of an injury happening. It's all of this gets, like, the more teams you let in, the more chance of something like this happening. Football doesn't have to work like basketball. It's not. The physicality is way different. The recruiting advantages mean that you won't have like 16s over ones, like that equivalent in the NCAA is often. That just the offensive lines are too big. It's like you can't have upsets like that in college football. It's like almost impossible. But it also means that you probably won't have the best team win now every time. And you basically had the best team or one of two or three teams win every single time for like 25 years. And I don't know if you can be confident in saying that's going to happen again. I don't even know how good Georgia is. Even if they're awesome, I still think my point still stands. Because, like, you know, yeah, like we're gonna let a group of 5 team into this thing. I think that's the idea. Like, they get one spot or something like that, or the way the rankings work. But I mean, Georgia might get, like, let's say Georgia's the 1 and they play the winner of a first round game. Like, that's gonna be the way the conferences are now. That might be like the 4th best team in the Big Ten, who's like USC or something, or like the 3rd best team in the SEC. These teams wouldn't have made the playoff before, but these are the teams that can beat Georgia. They probably played them in the regular season. They recruit from the same places. I think is it going to start looking like college baseball, where literally the best team hasn't won in college baseball in 25 years, and they play like a crazier tournament, regionals, and I know baseball's a different sport. Is it going to start to look more like that? Where, like, 5 years from now, we'll be like, wow, the number 1 seed still hasn't won the college football playoff since we went to 12 teams. Like, it hasn't happened yet. I think it's much more likely to be that than what it was before, which is sometimes only one team even. They just have this stranglehold on it where, like, you're not beating them in 2 games. You're just not. The way the setup is, the long layoff to get injured players back, the difference in recruiting, quality of competition, like, you're just not beating them. And, you know, last year was Michigan and then maybe Georgia if they had made it. Would have been the 2 that would have fit that description. And I think there's just going to be more of them this year. Really think you could get a wacky winner. Like, I won't be betting title the way that I have bet college football with this new layout. Yeah. But think about it. If you were me and you just said all that and you were in my position, would you be betting into who's going to win the college football championship this year?
I mean, unless you'd probably wait until you'd probably wait until the 12-team bracket came out and maybe like take a shot at maybe I don't know. You'd have to like see how it turned out.
You have no historical criteria. We've never had one of these. So who tends to win?
We don't even know. Easily, because what I was going to say was you'd want to take a shot at maybe, you know, a team that wouldn't necessarily fit the criteria, but you think because things are going to get wacky, it could play out this way, or it could just be like the best team also wins. It doesn't have to. Right.
Maybe we learn that. Maybe it is Georgia. Maybe we learn that it actually plays out exactly the same. But man, we used 2 BCS. We had 2. Now we have 4 in the playoff. Now we have 12. You make it more likely, like TCU did win a game to get to the title game. Like they're going to creep in there a little bit, those kind of teams. And look, all it takes is like, now you're going to play 3-4 playoff games. There's going to be injuries. The turnaround in these games is nothing. It's a week, like every time between the games. This isn't like, well, now we have 37 days to get ready for the college football playoff semifinal. So any player that was on our roster is now going to be available to play in this game. You said Nick Saban would devise plans and then have plans as off of those plans because he'd have so much time to prepare for this stuff. All that's gone. There's none of that. So it's just like the value of the bye will probably be significant like it is in the NFL playoffs. That would be my guess, because you rarely have situations like this in in college football, like some of the big rivalry games, both teams get a week off. Alabama, LSU, they both get the week off before they play. So you have that mixing and matching. That's probably going to matter a lot. I bet the market thinks that's going to matter a ton. That the team with the week off, I wonder if originally they price it like how they price NFL divisionals, where you like build in this huge advantage for the team that had the week off, even though they're not at home in college football. They're not at home, right? In the 8-team round, it's like part of the bowl system or whatever. It doesn't matter. I bet they build in more for the week off, just like assuming it'll be like the other NFL playoff games.
ESPN and their family of networks releasing the schedule for the 12-team college football playoff starting at the end of December, week 16 of the NFL, stretching until the championship game on January 20th. So you can give us a quick reaction there, just kind of like this is going to be an insane month of the year with tons of football, both professional and on the collegiate level. I'm sure you love it. And a little birdie told me that you were loving Georgia to win the national championship this year. And does it give you any pause knowing that it's going to be wacky now with the 12-team playoff, like more chances for upset, more chances for injury here? So kind of like your thoughts on the schedule, and then do you really love Georgia to win the title? Georgia the favorite right now at BetMGM.
I think it's great if you're a football consumer. I think there's 4 days in a span of 7 weeks where there won't be a playoff game or a bowl game or some sort of football on TV. And generally we get that in October and November, but that's great that we're going to get it during our holidays. And listen, January, the end of January, without the NFL, it'd be nothing. So I'm kind of glad college football is stepping up there. I like the schedule. I've always said we don't need to go to 12 teams to find a national title. 4 was enough. And so I think it's all filler. I think it's great that Notre Dame's going to get a home game in the playoff. It's great for the sport, but we didn't need all these teams to figure out who the national title is. And as far as Georgia goes, the new format is the reason I fired on a 5-1 the night that I walked out of Michigan, winning the national title in Houston. I walked out of there and I was like, I'm betting Georgia. They're too deep. Name the quarterbacks in college football this season. You have to really do your homework. We have been blessed with the Caleb Williams, the Jaden Daniels, the tons of quarterbacks that have been in college football forever because of COVID. And now they're all wiped out. They've gone on to the NFL. And so there's a lot of fresh faces and quarterbacks. Georgia's not one of them. Not only do they have Carson Beck, an extremely experienced quarterback there, they got Jaden Rashada backing them up, along with all the other, the 5-star, blue chip recruits that they've had come in. You're going to have 2 deep at every single position now in college football. You just can't have a couple good players and make a run. Because of this schedule and how long it is, you have to have depth. Nobody has more depth than Georgia. Nobody has a more experienced quarterback than Georgia, maybe better, but not as experienced. I like all that depth. I like the fact that the schedule is so long. You have to have a deep bench, and that plays into Georgia's hands completely. I don't even care if they win the SEC. Texas might win the SEC, but Georgia's making the playoff no matter what. And you're going to, send them to somebody else's house, or you're going to let them host a game in Athens? Get out of here. They're going to be in the Final Four. I'll worry about my 5-1 then, but hey, I would even take them at 3-1. I mean, this is a Georgia team that is loaded more than any other roster in college football.